Welcome back to a special edition of Spicer and Company. We're here in Florida at the Villages for a town hall with the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis.
All right, without further ado, the governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Well, Governor, thanks for being here. Thanks to the Villages for hosting us. It's amazing to be in a room of people for the first time in a while. For those of us not from Florida, as we mentioned before, you've lifted COVID restrictions. Almost everyone in this room is vaccinated because of the rollout that you've conducted here in Florida. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk about COVID. We're going to talk about veterans. We're going to talk about education and hopefully a little bit of religious liberty.
That's right. But first, we want to talk about COVID. And we want to take a question from the audience. We have Marlene, who's a former IBM executive. She has a question about COVID. Marlene.
First, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of all the work you've done with COVID and the rapid release of the vaccine to Florida. And I really think the whole room thanks you for that. We also appreciate your attention to Florida and not your next job. My question, Governor, is, have there been other states that have contacted you to ask about how you did it here in Florida?
Great question. And first, just let me say how happy I am, as always, to be at the Villages. And it's great to welcome Spicer and Company here. Although, full disclosure, Newsmax as a company is actually headquartered down in Palm Beach County. And so we're proud of that. Maybe you guys can move down and start doing your, I'm telling you, you would have had a better year for sure. So I have talked to some governors, maybe not as many as you'd expect. And what I would always try to tell them is you got to look at the data yourself. You can't just subcontract out leadership to some health bureaucrat. A lot of these health bureaucrats wanted to close everything indefinitely. That's just how they see the world. But I kept going back. If you look at Eisenhower's farewell address, a lot of people remember military-industrial complex. He was right about that too. But he actually warned about as science and government become more intertwined, as you have a scientific elite emerge in society, a leader can't just simply let policy be captive to whatever some credentialed expert says. A leader's got to take... A leader's got to take cognizance of everything that's going on in society, all these different competing factors, and then you make decisions. And ultimately, people they elected me in Florida as governor. They didn't elect a bureaucrat. They elected me to make these decisions. And so I had to make decisions based on what the data was telling me, but also understanding that while this virus was something that was serious, it's also serious, like what they did in California, lock kids out of school for a year. That's deadly serious. It's serious when you destroy hundreds of thousands of businesses across this country, which many of these lockdown states do, and cost millions of jobs and destroy many more lives than that. And so what we try to do is say, okay, this is a virus that's impacting elderly people by and large. Let's focus our efforts there. And obviously we were the first state to put seniors first for vaccine. That was actually against CDC recommendations. CDC said it wasn't, quote, equitable to put seniors first. This was their initial recommendation because they said seniors aren't, quote, diverse enough. Are you kidding me? The virus is impacting elderly people more. And so we said, okay, my goal is not to engage in some type of political ideology with this. My job's to save lives. And if you get seniors the vaccine, you're going to save more lives. So what I would tell folks is, you've got to make the decision. You've got to look at the data yourself. Listen to some of these people. I mean, you shouldn't be closed-minded, but understand many of these, quote, experts have been wrong time and time again during this thing. And so ultimately, leadership is about making tough decisions, being willing to lean in against the media and the narratives and all the other nonsense that percolated in this country when COVID came. It's politically safer, I think, for some of these people to just hide behind the health bureaucrats, say, oh, well, they told me this is what I have to do, that's what I have to do. And when you buck that and when you actually think for yourself, people say, oh, you don't listen to experts, you don't do that. But ultimately, I think the decisions we made, one, we were the first state to protect nursing homes. We didn't send infected patients back to nursing homes like some of those other states did. We protected them. We actually set up COVID-only nursing homes so that if someone did get infected, you had a safe place for them to be without infecting the other seniors. We were the first state to say, we're going back to school and we're going back to work, and we did that, and we were the first large state in the country to have 100% of our parents have access to in-person schooling for K-12. And as I mentioned, we said when the vaccines come, we're putting seniors first. All of those decisions were the right decisions, but all of those decisions cut against what a majority of the bureaucrats and the, quote, experts said we should have done.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Governor. You know, you got a lot of pushback for your approach from the media, from other governors. So how did you know that you were making the right decision when you opened up? Because many people said it's too early.
So, look, at the end of the day, if you look at how people said you should handle pandemics prior to COVID, nobody advocated a perpetual lockdown. That was never in the cards. No one said you should lock kids out of school indefinitely. You know, if you look in CDC, Great Britain, all these places, they'd say, you know, if there's a flu pandemic, maybe you close the school for a week or two, but no one would say you would do it indefinitely. No one would say that people shouldn't be able to go to work or that businesses should be closed indefinitely. So this was all, I felt, you know, as we got into April, we started to get some data in real time here in the U.S. I felt that this was way overboard in terms of what made sense for our country and for our state. And I think the data was saying that some of those responses were not grounded in data. They were based more in panic. And I'm shocked that we're at this point and it's still a struggle for every parent in this country to get their kid into school. How could that possibly be the case? And so, you know, I understood what the data was telling us, but I also understood you can't sacrifice a generation of kids. You can't sacrifice people's livelihoods for policies which had never been tried in this country before. And so I felt the most prudent course of action was the course of action that we took.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.